So in this video, I'm going to be talking about what I learned from paying Dan Pena 40,000 pounds. And I attended two of his mentorship programs. One of them is called Quantum Leap Advantage. That costs around 20,000 pounds. You go to his castle and you stay there for 7 days, and you're from morning to night you're with Dan Pena, and he trains you in business. And the second mentorship program is called QLA Hardcore, which is also I did. It's also worth around 20,000 pounds, and I did that within the same month, both of these seminars. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the lessons that I've learned from him, and also how I've applied those lessons in my life. So I will tell you the lesson, and I will tell you a story where I applied this and how it worked out. So when I met him, when you enter into the castle, you have a one-on-one time with him. So in this one-on-one time, you can ask him any question that you want. And I sat down with him, and he asked me, what are your goals? And I told him that my biggest goal is that I want to be a billionaire. And he said, what's your business idea? And I said, I want to open yoga studios, and I want to get into dating consulting. And he said, if you want to be a billionaire, it's not going to happen in any of these industries. I said, why is that? Because they are not big enough, he said. So I said, what do I do? He said, if you want to be a billionaire, you've got to go into healthcare. And I was like, okay. And I said, why is that? And he said, healthcare has over $11 trillion in its global economy. That's how big the space is. So even if you just position and do a even moderately okay job, you will make a bunch of money. And I was like, okay. And then the second lesson I learned that he shared was that don't create a business from scratch. I was always about innovation. I wanted to innovate. I wanted to create something from scratch, invent something like Elon Musk. And he's still my idol. And he said, if you want to be rich, if you want to make a bunch of money, the innovation is always risky, and it comes with a big price. And you cannot really afford to pay this price right now because you don't have any money. You don't have that kind of money, because there is always trial and error. Elon Musk went bankrupt, went almost bankrupt many times. So it's important to consider the risk factors that come with innovation. So I said, so what do I do? And he said, buy businesses. And you got to buy businesses. And his strategy is buy, build, and sell. I hadn't even heard about a model where you could just go in and buy businesses. Buy businesses, I don't have that kind of money. And then he says, you can raise money to buy businesses. So that's the advice that I got. Go into healthcare and buy businesses. So once he said that, I was completely empty, because I knew nothing about healthcare and I knew nothing about buying businesses. And the 2 weeks that I spent with him, he taught me step by step everything. How to, not just me, but everybody in the room, how to do this. The third lesson that he gave was, you need to find people that have done what you want to do. So if you want to build $1 billion company, if you want to buy businesses, then you must find people that have already done that, so that you can leverage their experience to navigate the business pathway, because you cannot do this alone. And I never had business partners, especially of this kind that I have today. He advised to find people who are outside my comfort zone. comfort zone, who have way more experience than me, and who can advise me on who have done $1 billion in transactions, who have been involved in $1 billion deals. And then I wondered, why would anybody get into a business partnership with me? I'm just starting off with my career, especially someone who has done $1 billion deals. And then he said that, well, they do. So if you don't ask, you don't get. And within 9 days of leaving the castle, I closed my first business partner, who became my chairman. He was a CEO of a $3.5 billion company. And he agreed to be on the board of my company and advise me and help me navigate all the tough terrains that I might see. And he trained me, and I learned so much from him, from his advice and his guidance. And not only did I manage to bring him on board, I managed to bring a lawyer, one of the top lawyers in UAE, who advised a $13 billion bank merger. I got together a CFO of a $400 million energy company. This man, the CFO that I'm talking about, has done 7 IPOs in his life. And the biggest one was $1.6 billion. It was a oil and gas company of one of the countries, and he took that company public. And I got together, senior partners from KPMG and PwC. These are top accounting firms, and they currently advise $1 billion conglomerates. I managed to get them on my team. And also I got together top CEOs of companies, healthcare companies, with 30 plus years of experience. I have 2 CEOs on the board, former CEOs who have been involved in large healthcare groups. So in total, I have over 200 plus years of experience on the board combined. If you combine everybody's experience, it is around 200 plus years of experience and billions of dollars in deal experience. And not just legal, but legal, finance, and healthcare. So just by putting the team together, even though I did not have the experience, I can leverage their experience. And I did not believe that this was possible, but it happened. So that was something I learned, how to build your dream team. And really, when I was building this team, I had this in my mind that you must find people who have done already what you want to do. You may be starting out and you may not believe that you can do something like this, but people who have already done $1 billion deals, and they have seen $1 billion deals happen. And when you come up with a venture and you propose an idea of such a company, it's not like they're not going to believe you. They are going to believe you because they have seen it happen. The only people in your environment that don't believe it are the people who themselves have not done it. People who have done it, they know it's possible, and they know it happens more often than not, because they are all the time around that environment where it happens over and over. Oh, this company went IPO, this company went IPO, this company went IPO. Oh, I saw this grow from zero and now it's billions. I saw this person, he didn't have money to buy a good car, and now he's made hundreds of millions. People over a cycle of 30 years, especially when you are in these companies, these big companies, you are working as an executive, you see you have these kind of experiences, and your belief system and your psychological framework is totally different than what was there in my family, what might be there in your family, and that's another thing that Dan Pena said, that your family is going to be a challenge in your life, because most likely they have not been involved in these billion-dollar deals, and you're going out, doing the presentation, coming home, and they will put you down because they just don't believe it. So you must always find people who have done what you want to do, and you want to be around them, and you want to be around that space. And to do that, you have to build a personal foundation. So that's the first step. Before you do anything, you build a personal foundation, which is you got to get rid of toxic friends. You got to even get rid of toxic family members. People have wives that are toxic that they have to get rid of. That's a sad thing, but that happens also. But you really got to create that ambience for success. You got to create a platform before you buy businesses, before you raise capital, before you do any of this, because this is a highly regulated space. This is a highly technical space. So you want people who have navigated these paths, and they can guide you, they can advise you, they can be there on your company board, and they can support you. And it's not easy to be around these people, because remember, these people are outside your comfort zone. So another thing that he said is you must live outside your comfort zone. And he said that if you're not throwing up on a daily basis, if you're not feeling like you want to throw up, then you're not doing the steps right. And almost every single day since last 3 years, and I kid you not, I have felt so much emotional pressure that I wake up and I feel like I want to throw up. And that's the kind of pressure that you want to put yourself in through, is because pressure breeds diamonds. And that's, again, his words. He says, pressure breeds diamonds. And it's difficult, but it's extraordinary, and it's beautiful. The next lesson is that he gave is that you must find an industry that has a 20% profit margin, because you want wiggle room in case something fucks up. Because you're now playing, or you're now doing business with other people's money, with banks' money, with financial institutions' money. You want to make sure that what you are buying is very profitable. And even if some things do not go as planned, you can still pay back the loan. And to do that, you need to have 20% profit margins. I like to go after industries which have 30 to 40% profit margins, and there are plenty in healthcare. So I managed to find a $3.5 million deal that had a 30 to 40% profit margin. I managed to find a $10 million deal that had a 40% profit margin. And I even found a $25 million deal which had a 30 to 35% profit margin. When you have those kinds of profit margin and you buy these businesses at the right price, then it's much easier to get it financed, and it's much more feasible for you to pay back that loan. So that's another lesson that I learned. Have big profit margins so that even if things fuck up, you have wiggle room to make up the difference, and you can pay back the loan responsibly. Another lesson that he said is wealth is built on a series of transactions. So you want to do multiple deals. You want to have, buy multiple companies. Because you're buying companies are much faster than creating a company. You could buy a $10 million business in 6 months, but to create a $10 million business in 6 months is just not going to be practical, So you can buy several $10 million businesses in a matter of few years and create a whole bunch of wealth for yourself and for the people who associate with you, your directors, your shareholders, And so he said, do series of transactions. So you want to keep buying companies. 90% of your time has to be focused on buying businesses. And it was very shocking for me to even believe that I could meet the decision makers of these companies. I have met in the last few years a $3.5 million business, a $10 million business, $25 million business, $120 million business, $140 million business, and many more that I'm not naming right now. I have spoken to over 400 businesses, and out of them, I'm naming a few that were very meaningful negotiations, conversations that I had to buy these businesses. These are major decision maker, and I'm not talking just at the CEO level or a general manager level. I'm talking the major shareholder and all of the partners who own the company were at those meetings. And these meetings happen in lawyers' offices, in accountants' offices, in conference rooms of 5-star hotels. I mean, these are really high-profile negotiations that I've been involved in. And I did this starting with no money, because very rarely these companies are bought with the person's own money. I mean, who has got $25 million sitting in a bank account? Rarely people have that kind of money sitting in a bank account. It's always raised from a bank or a financial institution. So that's another thing that I realized that, and he taught me that, money has to be raised. Very rarely somebody writes the check. Even if they are capable of writing the check, they always raise the money from the financial institutions. Because you're not buying a car, you're not buying a house that you're going to live in. You're not going to buy, clothing that's not going to produce cash. You're buying a cash machine. You're buying a business that's producing cash flow. And as long as the cash flow is double the amount of the loan that you have, for example, if the cash flow is $2 million a year and the loan amount is $1 million a year, then you have a very healthy cash flow to debt service coverage. And if you have that, you can buy the business. So these are sort of things that I learned how to do, how to pick an industry the right way, how to pick the right business model, how to build your dream team that has done billions of dollars in deal from legal, finance, and the industry that you're going in, and have 200 plus years of experience on board, how to find multi-million dollar businesses, how to negotiate deals with these multi-million dollar businesses, which is the purchase price, how to do risk analysis on these deals, how to differentiate between good deals and bad deals. In a couple of minutes, he taught how to do that in the hardcore seminar, how to structure legal agreements, how to manage the expectations of the board that you bring on your team, how to maintain a majority stake in your company. So most of the people who execute this venture, I own, for example, around 64% of my company. And I'm the youngest shareholder, and I still own 64% of the company. So how to set this up? So these kind of things which are so incredibly powerful, the strategies, the methodology, how to conduct business meetings, how to negotiate with law firms and accounting firms. And the most interesting part about the whole model is that you can execute this with little or no money. Now you need some source of income to pay your bills. If you have a mortgage, if you have rent, if food and those kind of things, your living expenses need to be paid, But apart from that, the business itself takes very little money, because you're buying a cash flow producing business that has 20 to 40% margin using debt and you're doing multi-million dollar deals. Once you start doing deals, you'll make money. You can leave your job, you can leave your old business and do this full time. But the venture itself, you will not be required to sign a check to buy this business. Somebody else would be putting up the money. And that's the promise. You will not be paying from your own pocket to these high-profile advisors that you bring on. You will be paying them in shares, in equity in your company. So this is a model which is really extremely rare in the market, where you need little or no money and you can buy multi-million dollar businesses. And he gives examples of companies which made hundreds of billions of dollars. For example, KKR is a company. It's one of the largest private equity firms that grew with little or no money. You know, the partners, I think, had only $120,000 that they put in. Everybody put in like $20,000, $50,000, and they made hundreds of billions. And because they used the bank's money to buy companies. And it was exactly the same model. And this whole system is based on that. So, on buying businesses. And the final lesson that he gave was, the true wealth is created when you buy a big company, when you create a big company through buying businesses and you sell it at a very high price, at a double valuation. So if you buy something at 3 to 5 times your yearly cash flow of that business, you can exit at 8 to 10 times. So it's almost double. So whatever price you pay, you can exit for a double price. Why? Because much larger company are valued much more than a small business. But you're buying several small businesses, creating a large company and selling it at a higher price. It's a simple arbitrage. So he said the big money is in selling the business. So don't fall in love with the business. Always keep in mind that you're buying the business, creating this company to exit fast. Since you are the major shareholder, assuming that you still have the same equity, you will end up making a bunch of money. So those are my snippets. I'm currently the founder of this company, Vital Gates Holdings. I have several shareholders, directors, and I'm pursuing big deals. As I said, I've been in a $3.5 million, $10 million, $25 million, $120 million, and $140 million negotiations. At my age, I'm 29 years old, and I have had that kind of exposure and met these kinds of people. And this happened, most of this happened in my first year, and I put together the team within 60 days. And it's been an incredible journey, and I have a lot to thank Dan Pena for. And this is the reason I'm making this video. He changed my life. He put me in this position, and I'm making this to pay it forward so that somebody who wants to create wealth and who has big goals watches this and get inspired. So I'll talk to you soon.